My friends, it's the last day of 2019. So let's settle up our accounts a little bit. My name is Howard Real. This is Real Truth. What's been going on in 2019 that I have noticed? Well, I'll tell you. Thanks for asking. You know, in the news today, U.S. military base was attacked by an Iranian-backed militia. We'll talk more about that in a little while. But, you know, our leaders have still not found the backbone to end once and for all Iranian support of terrorism and their threats of nuclear genocide and the overall threat of radical Islam. Our leaders still aren't taking these threats seriously because if they were, they would have ended them, and they know exactly how to do that. 2019, Democrats have pledged to weaken and eventually ruin America with open borders, higher taxes, more regulation, abandoning Israel, resistance by the do-nothing Congress, activist judges, free health care for illegal alien criminals, the monstrously idiotic Green New Deal, sanctuary cities, anti-Semitism, socialism, transgender bathrooms, reparations, lousy trade deals, less American energy, fewer jobs, more welfare, and much, much more than that. We have received still more confirmation of the endless dishonesty of most of the American media and the enduring power of the swamp. A large percentage of Americans are still clueless enough to vote for the swamp. They refuse to call Democrats out on their unwillingness to lift a finger to solve the nation's problems, as well as for their policies guaranteed to make Americans poorer and less free and less safe. In 2019, many Americans just can't bring themselves to admit Donald Trump is doing a spectacular job for this country. Americans continue to be the most distracted and entertained people in the history of the world. Parents are being allowed to ruin their kids' lives by subjecting them, even kids as young as 3 years old, to hormone regimens designed to supposedly change their genders. To date, none of these parents have been arrested for child abuse. They also refuse to acknowledge that, as experts explain, transgender people are suffering from delusions and require psychiatric treatment. Many Americans are still dumb enough to applaud athletes who refuse to stand for the national anthem. Worse, they hail these ignoramuses as inspirational leaders. Many Americans in 2019 continued to let their anti-Semitism get the better of them, supporting moronic programs like BDS and amazingly viewing Palestinians as something other than the terrorists, murderers, thieves, and liars that they are. In 2019, PC culture continued to whittle down what we are allowed to think and to say. Universities continued to be restrictive of freedom of speech, and instead they focused on indoctrinating innocent, inexperienced kids in long-failed, wrong-headed liberal policies and viewpoints. My friends, I could go on and on and on and on about all the things wrong with American society in 2019, but the thing that gets me is that there's no rush, because the same things will be wrong with American society in 2020, and I'll be here to chronicle them all for you and to agitate for change, for improvement. Now, as for the attack on the U.S. Embassy, here's a piece from the Daily Mail. President Donald Trump has vowed to hold Iran fully responsible for an attack on the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad on Tuesday, where hundreds of pro-Iran militia members stormed the compound in retaliation for American airstrikes. American soldiers inside the embassy have fired tear gas, stun grenades, and warning shots, wounding 62 of the hundreds of fighters who broke down the gate and set fires within the complex in the Iraqi capital. According to the Popular Mobilization Forces, an umbrella group for the militias recognized by the Iraqi government. Stop right there. Stop. Right in the middle. Stop. If we're going to hold Iran fully responsible, that means we've got to destroy large chunks of Iran. Simply applying sanctions is obviously not enough. Number two, I am appalled and saddened when I read that American soldiers who were being attacked fired tear gas, stun grenades, and warning shots and they only wounded these people. I don't read of anyone being machine gunned. I don't read of any of these attackers being killed. How the hell have we done this incredible daily double, having the most powerful and vaunted military in the history of Earth, on the other hand, being attacked and not killing any of our attackers? How do we do that? Are we schizophrenic? The piece from the Daily Mail continues. The ambassador was on leave at the time of the attack, and embassy staff had already been evacuated before the U.S. Marine Guard became besieged behind the bulletproof glass and on the rooftops. Tuesday's attack on the embassy was in retaliation for U.S. airstrikes on the Iran-backed Kataib Hezbollah on Sunday night, which killed 24 fighters. Those strikes were in retaliation for last week's killing of an American contractor at the U.S. base in Kirkuk. So now we find ourselves going back and forth with the Iranians, and again, I'm not understanding why. We could put an end to the Iranian threat. All you have to do is press a button. All you have to do is decide that Iran no longer needs Tehran, and so it's gone. We have been playing footsie with Iran, and terrible things are resulting. Instead of solving our problems, and believe me, as a Trump supporter, it bothers me. Instead of solving our problem with Iran, we continue to propagate it and perpetuate it, and I just don't get why. Thanks to the strength of our military, we can win any engagement. We can defeat any enemy. And yet still, even with Donald Trump in the White House, we just plain don't seem to want to. And I don't get it. Hopefully 2020 will see a change of heart. And we'll see the American military finally take the threat of Iran to heart. And do something to see to it that Iran doesn't threaten the Middle East, the United States, or any part of the world again in the next century. We can do it. Like so many other things in America, so many other problems, we can solve it. We just have to want to. Okay. We'll be back with this year's final show, Real Truth. Go nowhere.